Joining us now is Congressman Jim Himes. He's a member of the Intelligence Committee. He also represents Connecticut's 4th District, which is right next door to the district in Connecticut where Mr. Hyde is currently standing as a Republican candidate for Congress. Mr. Himes, Congressman, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Hi, Rachel.
I know this isn't the right way to ask this question, but what the heck? What is this? Please tell me this is a fabulist who has concocted some sort of fantasy plot in his mind, and this wasn't a real thing.
Yeah, I'm not the governor of Connecticut, Rachel, but I do, on behalf of the people of Connecticut, apologize for Mr. Hyde. And look, I guess there's two ways to look at this. As you said earlier in the show, this is not Mr. Hyde's first brush with fame. He, of course, got some attention by putting up a truly disgusting tweet about Senator Kamala Harris when she withdrew from the presidential race. So, look, this guy's a malignant clown. It is quite possible that he was just making all this stuff up. That would sort of be consistent with this guy. But, of course, we don't assume that. It is also possible, and we don't know this true or false, that he actually did talk to people on the ground who were surveilling and conceivably threatening a United States ambassador. This is the kind of thing that we take very, very seriously, despite the clown-like behavior of Mr. Hyde.
Obviously, the question that I think immediately arose in people's minds when we first started absorbing the impact or the implication of these text messages is whether or not this is what Ambassador Yovanovitch was being warned about. When she got that middle of the night, 1 a.m. call from the State Department telling her to get on the next plane, there were concerns about her safety. That was about a month after these exchanges between Mr. Parnas and Mr. Hyde were happening via encrypted text. Is there any indication of what the White House or the State Department might have known about this and whether that is, in fact, what led to that urgent security alert to the ambassador that got her out of that country?
Yeah, I mean, I chuckle, Rachel, because we don't know. We don't know. And amidst all of this talk of, almost cartoon-like characters, I mean, this is the stuff that if you made it up and put it into a comic book, nobody would believe. And the reason we don't know, of course, is the headline of everything here that is getting lost in this story. We don't know the answer to your question because the President of the United States, in an absolutely unprecedented move, has refused to make a single person, a single email, a single phone call available to congressional investigators. Why is that? Because every fact, every email, every trove of Lev Parnas, Lev Parnas, who'd ever heard of this guy? Not exactly Mike Pompeo, but every single email, document, phone call that comes out is deeply incriminating to the president. So, not only would we like to have the kind of evidence presented that Nixon was required to present, that Bill Clinton presented, including testifying and giving a deposition himself, because it would be important to understanding the behavior of this president, and presumably important to senators actually making an impartial and informed decision about the behavior of that president. But there's any number of subplots like this surveillance of an American ambassador or possible surveillance of an American ambassador that we need to know a lot more about.
The release from your committee, from the Intelligence Committee tonight, made clear that this wasn't all of it, that there's about 60 pages of material, 59 pages of material that were released tonight. But apparently there was a second trove of material that was described by the chairman, Adam Schiff, as sensitive material, call records that included personal sensitive information that therefore shouldn't be made public. Should we expect that that's the kind of information that will be of public interest, that may eventually be released to the public after it's been redacted so that we don't have access to anything personal and sensitive?
Yeah, you're correct about that. There is another batch of information. It was described in the letter. It is phone records, and phone records by their nature, of course, have specific phone numbers, sometimes names attached to those. And so because time was of the essence here, and really this has been a little bit of a race against the clock, and that, of course, points us to the question of whether Nancy Pelosi was smart or not in delaying the conveyance of the articles to the Senate. It's no small matter actually taking a phone, as was done in this case, and extracting the data from that phone and ultimately understanding it and, understanding what the Russians said. So, yes, of course, there's a lot more information here. And again, let me go back to the point I just made. Lev Parnas is sort of a fringy character attached to Rudy Giuliani. Could you imagine, and I think senators need to ask this question, the American people need to ask this question of their senators, could you imagine what we might learn if we weren't dealing with clowns and fringy characters, but actually seeing the emails, files that exist at State, that exist at the White House, that would give us a full picture of, not just the president's misbehavior, but who knew? Did the State Department know that Ambassador Yovanovitch was being surveilled? This is the headline that's getting lost here, Rachel, which is the unprecedented refusal of this president, literally unprecedented. When you hear the Republicans say we're following exactly the rules that Clinton followed, baloney. Clinton was deposed. Clinton made every single individual and documents and emails available. This president has not made a document, an email, or a phone call, or an individual available to this investigation.
And that's why we're getting this stuff by other means, including this remarkable release tonight. Congressman Jim Himes, member of the Intelligence Committee. It's a big week and a big night. Thanks for being with us. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Rachel.